always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into the GSMC Entertainment Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessica, and I'll be sharing some of the top entertainment news that you just need to know. Guys, hello and welcome back. I'm really excited for today's episode. There's a lot coming at you, and I hope you like. But first, I've been watching a lot of I Love Lucy lately. So I care for my Nana a few days a week, and I recently brought my iPad, to do some work with me when I go over to her house to see her. And she was kind of in like a mood, and so I was like, Nana, do you want to watch I Love Lucy? And she looked at her eyes wide. She's like, yes. So I pull out my iPad and I have Hulu on my iPad and I put on I Love Lucy, and she was like a kid on Christmas. She was so excited to watch it, commercial free and just on loop. So no commercials, nothing, no nonsense. It was just her and I Love Lucy. She was glued to the screen. It was actually so cute to watch. Now, I've always loved I Love Lucy as a kid. I would watch with Nana, but watching as an adult is like a totally different experience. I am now completely obsessed with it, kind of like how I'm obsessed with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I don't know if it's because 2020 has been such a flop of a year, but I am loving the fashion. Like, Lucy, you look phenomenal in every scene, in every episode. That, and Lucy gets dressed every single day. Like, why does that blow my mind so much? It's so sad that it does. But like the women on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like they dress up every day because they're on TV and they're creating a TV show, but they have these looks that are just so fire, and I'm just sitting here in my biker shorts and oversized t-shirt for the bajillionth day in a row. I feel just like so sloppy. But then I think like, sure, there's a lot of things about like the 1950s that like aren't that great, but I wish like collectively as a society we would have kept the like dressed up and be presentable part of culture, right? Like, does that make sense? Like, pajamas are not going out clothes. And how many times have I been to the grocery store or run to Target and I see people just like so sloppy and not care how they present themselves to the world, like, look at how like Ricky Ricardo, like how he would always dress in a suit and a beautiful jacket. And it was just different times, and they did their hair. Like, oh my gosh, Lucy, the amount of time that she would put into her hair. And this was like all common in the 50s. And I just wish we would bring that back. But like pajamas out in public, I cannot get behind. I mean, I might wear comfy clothes out in public, but I will not wear my pajamas out in public. I will say that is the line. I don't even wear my pajamas if I'm just like chilling on the couch at the end of the day. I have plenty of lounge clothes that I'll do that in, which is like essentially what my wardrobe has been since like March. But then I put on my pajamas right before I go to bed. I don't want to get them dirty. They are meant for the sheets and not the couch. So anyway, I know I'm talking about classics. So for the end of the show, I will be talking about some of my favorite classics of Hollywood. You're not going to want to miss that. But before we even get to that, I have to tell you all of the fun entertainment news that's going on in the world. I mean, some of it's fun, some of it not so much, but stuff we need to discuss that I feel like you should know. We are talking about Paris Hilton. We're talking the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex. They have signed like quite the deal with Netflix. And then we're going to be talking about Dancing with the Stars. So guys, this is a show that you will not want to miss. And I think it is time we need to just dive right on in. I'm going to start this segment with a phrase that I have been wanting to say into the microphone ever since I started doing this podcast. Okay, so ready? We're going to start with the first segment. Here we go. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. That's right. Dancing with the Stars has finally revealed its full lineup for the 2020 season. And yes, Carole Baskin of Tiger King will be competing for the Mirror Ball, as well as rapper Nelly and Backstreet Boys member AJ McLean. The first contestant revealed was a few months ago, former Bachelorette Caitlin Bristowe, who famously had an offer to do the show, but had an offer to do her show after her season of The Bachelorette back in 2017. And then she was told she wasn't allowed to be on the show because show creator of The Bachelor, Mike Fleiss, didn't want people going on to the Bachelor franchise to find fame, even though previous alums such as Melissa Rycroft and Trista Sutter had already appeared on Dancing with the Stars. Other alums who made appearances on the show way before Caitlin Bristowe: Jake Pavelka, Sean Lowe, Chris Soules, Nick Viall, Grocery Store Joe, and Hannah Brown. This has been a long time coming for Bristowe, and I, for one, am so excited to watch her compete for the Mirrorball trophy. She will be competing up against, I have the full list here for you. So I'm going to go right down the list and give you a little background on who is competing against my girl. First, we have Monica Autama. Think back to the beginning of quarantine when everyone was obsessed with the Netflix documentary Cheer. Coach of the Bulldogs cheer team from Navarro College is now going to be front and center herself. I have never done dance in my life, she says. I've always done cheerleading. And I've learned very quickly that it's completely different and it's a whole different technique. So I have a long journey ahead of me, but I know how to work hard and I'm definitely going to bring that. I love a good the teacher becomes the student moment. Cheers, Gabby Butler and Lexi Brumbach have shared their words of encouragement to their coach. Lexi saying, with her determination, she will become a pro at anything. And Butler said she's very used to walking in heels already, so I feel like she's already a hard worker. She is a coach, and because of that, and she did cheer back in the day, I think she can take good criticism. So I'm very excited to see her compete. We have Carole Baskin, killed her husband, whacked him. The Big Cat's rights activist and owner of Big Cat Rescue will also be putting on her dancing shoes. Do you think that she'll do the famous TikTok dance? God, I really, really hope so. Like, it's really sad how much I need that to happen. I feel like it will be this wonderful full circle moment. You know, she'll kind of be like poking fun of herself, but then also like really bringing in that audience. I mean, that TikTok and whoever created that like song about it, like to that beat, is just iconic and so early 2020s. We also have Vernon Davis, former tight end who won Super Bowl 50 with the Denver Broncos, my brother's favorite team. He's also played for the San Francisco 49ers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Washington football team. Davis, 36, retired from the NFL this year. He admits that he turned down the opportunity to do Dancing with the Stars in the past, but he is looking forward to finally showing America what he can do on the dance floor. There's Anne Heche, the actress known for starring in the soap opera Another World, as well as starring in films such as Volcano and 1998's Psycho remake and TV shows such as Men in Trees and Hung. Her kids are super, super excited and supportive of their mom. I mean, who wouldn't be? How cool is it to see your mom ballroom dance? There's also Sky Jackson, Disney Channel alum. She also is, speaking of TikTok, Jackson teased that viewers may have to tune in to see if she and her partner incorporate any TikTok trends into their routines, and that is how you grab a younger audience. We have Justina Macchiato, actress known for starring on TV shows such as 6 Feet Under, Queen of the South, and One Day at a Time. We have Ginny May, Emmy-winning host of the syndicated daytime talk show The Real, which she has starred in since the premiere in 2013. There's also Nell. I don't want any of my other NSYNC fans to be upset for me talking so positively about this, but AJ McClain, I'm sorry. Now everyone knows that I am a diehard NSYNC stan, but I have to say that I am so excited to see this boy band member hit the dance floor. AJ is best known to be 1/5 of the Backstreet Boys. They hold 8 Grammys. He has the advantage of being in a boy band in the 90s and early 2000s. We all know they had killer dance moves, especially for back then. So he has that to his advantage. So I can't wait to see what he does on the dance floor. I would actually love a moment where he dances to an NSYNC song. Like, I will be so here for that. We also have Jesse McCleave. He is an actor known in Desperate Housewives. He also made his film debut in 2006, John Tucker Must Die. Fans may also recognize him from the soap opera Passions or the Dallas continuation series. Most recently, he has been a staple on the Hallmark Channel. On being on Dancing with the Stars, the actor said, "I am basically a non-dancer. I mean, I have no formal training in dance whatsoever. I'm excited to work hard and hopefully leave the show with a new skill set, maybe a job on Broadway. I love a good can-do attitude. I love watching non-dancers grow and get better and better each week. And as a working actor, he has the discipline, and that is half the battle." There's also Nelly. This makes my heart so happy. A 3-time Grammy-winning singer. Over the years, he has produced such hits as Hot in Her Dilemma with Kelly Rowland and Over with Tim McGraw. I am so stoked to watch Nelly ballroom dance. I think it's going to be so, so great. And if he can do a dance to get too hot in here, I will be over the moon. I will be overjoyed. There's Charles Oakley, former power forward who played in the NBA alongside Michael Jordan on the Chicago Bulls. There's also Nev Schulman, the host of Catfish, a reality series based on his 2010 documentary of the same name about potential pitfalls of online dating when you're talking to strangers. Having been catfished himself, ironically, the 35-year-old has since found love with his wife, Laura, along with whom he shares 2 children. He is like this generational and cultural icon. I think he's a great addition to the show. We have Crystal Strauss. This actress has also starred in soap operas such as All My Children and Days of Our Lives. And finally, we have John Weir, the 2-time Olympic figure skater. He is fantastic. If you don't know who he is for figure skating, but you like reality TV or these like game show things, you have probably seen him on The Masked Singer. He was the egg in season 2. He was the first one to be unmasked, but I have a funny feeling with his figure skating background, he's going to go a lot further with Dancing with the Stars. I am rooting for Caitlin Bristow the entire season. Her time has come. I am so excited for her. But, like I said before, I am also ready for new content. Bring it on. I'm very excited for the season. I cannot wait for it to start. I will be recapping it when it does air, also with The Bachelor as well. I believe they're going to be airing simultaneously eventually, but not right away. So that is the news on Dancing with the Stars. We finally have the cast list. It airs very, very soon. I think the preview is already next week. Coming up, we're going to be talking about Prince Harry and Meghan and also Paris Hilton. All different types of royalty, if you ask me. And then at the very end of the episode, I will be sharing some of my favorite classics of Hollywood. I am so inspired by watching so much I Love Lucy. I really hope you stick with me to the end because I'm excited to share that with you. So until then, guys, we will be right back. Quick break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back, guys. I hope you are just as excited for Dancing with the Stars as I am. I wonder if there's anybody in that list that you're going to be rooting for. Go on to Instagram and let me know. Like I said, I am rooting for Kaitlyn Bristowe all the way, but tell me who you're going to be rooting for. I would love to hear from you. We can talk gossip as the season airs. But right now, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. I want to talk some fun business news. These two heavy hitters, I mean, they are coming in strong, and that is Prince Harry and Meghan. They are finally making their own living. It's exactly what they've wanted to do. The pair have signed a multi-year deal to make TV series, films, and TV shows for Netflix as part of their new careers away from the front line of the royal family. Meghan and Harry have reportedly held meetings with a number of Hollywood studios and Netflix's streaming rivals since moving to California this year. Quibi even tried to court the couple. Quibi founders Meg Whitman and Jeffrey Katzenberg, both actually went to Harry and Meghan to get them to sign. Harry and Meghan also quietly spoke with NBC Universal, Disney, Apple, all before deciding to go with Netflix. Netflix is a logical choice for the former senior royals, given the platform has already signed on other major public figures like the Obamas, Beyonce, and Leonardo DiCaprio. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have yet to name their production company, but they have committed already to documentaries, docuseries, feature films, scripted shows, and children's programming. The production company being established by Harry and Meghan will operate independently from their already charitable foundation, which is called Archewell. Harry and Meghan may appear on camera in documentary programming, but Meghan has no plans to return to acting. So if you love her acting, Suits is all you got, guys. So go watch reruns of that. In a statement released to the New York Times, quote, "Our lives, both independent of each other and as a couple, have allowed us to understand the power of the human spirit, of courage, resilience, and the need for connection. Through our work with diverse communities and their environments, to shining a light on people and causes around the world, our focus will be on creating content that informs, but also gives hope. The couple also shared that they were inspired to produce quality family programming by their baby, Archie. Netflix's co-chief executive and chief content officer said in a statement, quote, We're incredibly proud they have chosen Netflix as their creative home and are excited about telling stories with them that can help build resilience and increase understanding for audiences everywhere. Now, Netflix is under pressure to keep its pipelines flowing as it competes with viewers from other streaming services. We have Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Hulu, Peacock, and the traditional broadcast networks, just to name a few. Family programming is particularly important to Netflix, and Harry and Meghan already have an animated series in development that is focused on inspiring women. Last week, Netflix released Rising Phoenix, a documentary about the Paralympic Games. Harry, who founded the Invictus Games for wounded veterans, makes an appearance in that film. So they're already part of this Netflix community. Hollywood oftentimes can be this cool kids club. The Obamas are with Netflix. In 2018, Netflix struck a deal with Barack and Michelle to produce shows and films. That partnership in March yielded to Crip Camp, a feel-good documentary about the origins of the disability rights movement that is an early favorite to win the 2021 Oscar for Best Nonfiction Film. Content centered on social messages such as racial justice, gender equality, and environmental stewardship has all been hot in Hollywood for quite some time, but this is something that Meghan and Harry really want to shine their light upon. Netflix also partnered with Participant Media, which was founded by eBay billionaire Jeff Skoll, and they backed Ava DuVernay's miniseries When They See Us, which depicted the excruciating toll that persecution and incarceration had on the teenage boys known as the Central Park Five. You know, it's no wonder that Harry and Meghan want to sit with the cool kids in this situation, especially with all the philanthropic work that they have done in the past. It is unclear now how much money Harry and Meghan will be getting paid or have gotten paid with this signing due to their lack of producing experience. Now, there is a rumor going around as to how much money was involved. And this is a rumor. Again, it is just speculation. It is just a rumor. This is not fact. But the number I hear is close to $100 million. I mean, how does one put a price on snagging a royal? It is unquantifiable because this has never been done before, where a true royal of this magnitude has gone commercial and has gone Hollywood. I mean, not too shabby, Prince Harry. The couple also gets paid up to $1 million for speaking engagements. So just to speak, $1 million. The pair signed with Harry Walker Agency back in June. Now, I think that this is an amazing opportunity for the couple. It was a very rough road, but the couple, they finally made it. They got here, and I think it's all going to be worth it. The couple abruptly announced in January that they plan to step back from their royal duties, seeking financial independence, all via an Instagram post. The media dubbed the departure Megxit. After 3 days of negotiations, Queen Elizabeth II granted the couple's wishes so long as they do not use their most exalted titles, such as His Royal Highness and Her Royal Highness, as well as Sussex Royal for branding. I am eager to see what their brand will ultimately be. But I'm also curious, since they signed with the Harry Walker Agency, who also represents the Obamas, I wonder if they will be entering the podcast world, following in the footsteps of Michelle Obama. I would love, love, love for them to host a podcast, especially Meghan. This is just the beginning of a whole branding and a whole renaissance for Meghan and Harry. I'm so excited for them. Meghan has had quite the rough go of it since the couple began dating. I mean, she was accused of being a social climber. She was called horrible racist slurs. And she also had to endure the scrutiny of the press attempting to body shame her. Look, listen. If Meghan knew that she had a crush on the prince, and she happened to know the right people to get them into the same room, then that's cool. Like, good for you. I am glad it worked out. When I met my husband, I made sure that I worked the same shifts as he did so I can get to know him. Like, that's fine. And here we are. So I'm glad it worked out if that's what she wanted, but who cares? Like, this is a charming, beautiful, and modern couple, and all they want to do in this world is good things. And the media was just so awful to them every step of the way. And frankly, I don't blame them for leaving their royal duties. I think they could do just enough, just the same, if not more, than being on their own. They're still going to be hounded by paparazzi. I don't think that's ever going to stop. But look at everything that they can accomplish and everything that they're going to accomplish. And they're not going to need the approval of any other royals. They're not going to need the approval of the queen or down the road, the approval of his brother to do what he wants to do or for them to do what they want to do. They have this freedom, and listen, they're going to be the coolest kids on the block in terms of Hollywood. So all these doors are going to open for them. The opportunities are going to be plentiful. I am so excited that they're creating this life for themselves. They're creating this life for Archie. They're creating this life if they choose to have any other children. I wish them absolutely nothing but the best. I think this is great for them. I think Netflix is going to do great things for them. It's going to be great. Like I said, I'm so excited to hear what their production name is going to be. This is all good. There's nothing bad about this. So I'm so excited for them. I wish them absolutely nothing but the best and all the success in the world. I mean, my Lord, get it. Like, make those dollars, guys. You deserve it. So up next, we're going to be switching gears a little bit. We're going to be talking about Paris Hilton and how she is opening up about her abusive past. So just a heads up, guys, the next segment's going to be a little bit of a downer. But then after that, I'm very excited to share with you some of my favorite things about classic Hollywood. There's so much history in the final segment, and it's not boring history. It's very fun history. So I'm very excited to share all of that with you. So stay tuned, guys. We will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, friends, welcome back. I want to start this segment with a trigger warning as we are about to discuss the topic of abuse as it relates to Paris Hilton. This segment also has a lot of quotes. I do not want to speak out of turn, and I don't want to put any words in Paris's mouth considering the topic. So there's going to be a lot of quotes, so just like ride along with me. This is definitely me sharing some news with you. It's going to be a little bit less opinion based. So again, trigger warning, topic of abuse as it relates to Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton is speaking up. In her new documentary, This is Paris, premiering September 14th on Hilton's YouTube channel, the entrepreneur and reality star reveals for the first time the horrific abuse she endured as a teen while at a boarding school in Utah. She is one of the first celebs to become famous for being famous. Hilton is sharing her story, her true story. In the trailer, she talks about being Paris Hilton, and she says that while she feels like the whole world thinks that they know her, she doesn't feel like she knows herself sometimes. Her character of Paris Hilton is very different from who this woman actually is. Years before she became a household name in the Simple Life oh my goodness, that's how used I am to reading dates. Years before she became a household name on The Simple Life in 2003, Hilton was a teen living in New York City's famed Waldorf Astoria hotel with her parents Rick and Kathy Hilton and younger siblings Nikki, Barron, and Conrad. Life in the big city also came with very big temptations, and like any teenager, especially with strict parents, Paris rebelled and she snuck out to go to clubs and parties, and her parents got fed up with her actions like any parent would. And despite other punishments of like taking her phone and her credit card as punishment, they couldn't seem to get through to their daughter, so they made the decision to send 17-year-old Paris to a series of boarding schools that claimed to focus on behavioral and mental development, the last of which was Provo Canyon School, where Hilton stayed for 11 months. Almost immediately after she arrived, the abuse that she faced took place on a daily basis. Quote, "I knew it was going to be worse than anywhere else. It was supposed to be a school, but classes were not the focus at all. From the moment I woke up until I went to bed, it was all day screaming in my face, yelling at me, continuous torture. The staff would say terrible things. They were constantly making me feel bad about myself and bully me. I think it was their goal to break us down. And they were physically abusive, hitting and strangling us. They wanted to instill fear in the kids so we'd all be too scared to disobey them." Now, these allegations are supported by 4 of Hilton's former teen classmates who also make an appearance in the documentary, including that they were force-fed medication and held down by restraints as punishments. Other punishments included being held in solitary confinement for up to 20 hours a day for making plans to run away from the school. Now, I want to be completely transparent and honest with you guys. This is me, Jess, talking. Before I started reading this story, my brain, when I saw the headlines, immediately went to like poor little rich girl, and I mistakenly assumed that this was an exaggerated story, like, oh boo-hoo, you got yelled at, you had to face consequences for your actions, like this stereotype that the wealthy don't suffer from any repercussions because they have the money and the means to avoid it. But these allegations are very serious, and it is a true abuse of power. Staffers of the school allegedly claimed that, quote, no one is going to believe you. So if Paris told her parents what was going on, she was told that they wouldn't believe, like, why would they believe me? Like, I'm just like a 17-year-old girl, like, against this big school. Like, that is abuse, and that is terrible. That's not, like, all the physical stuff aside, just that sentence is abuse, and it's awful. So finally, when she turned 18 in 1999, Paris was able to leave the school and head back to New York, but she was so scared to speak a word of her experience to anyone. So this poor girl had to hold all of this awful, awful experience in her, something that her parents, like your parents drove you there, flew you there, checked you in, set up your room, and was like, this is your life. And like, you trust your parents and they put you in this situation. Now, granted, her parents didn't know that this was going on, but to Paris, like that was normal. So that's really, really heartbreaking, and that's really, really sad. It really breaks my heart. Paris says, I was so grateful to be out of there. I didn't want to bring it up. Like it was something that I was ashamed of, and I didn't want to speak of it. Oh my goodness, Paris, I am so, so sorry. But more than 20 years later, in filming the documentary and reflecting on her life thus far, Hilton says that she was finally able to open up about the trauma of her past in the hopes that she can finally move on. Hilton says she doesn't have any plans currently to pursue legal justice. Instead, she's focused on raising awareness about other so-called behavior improvement schools that she says still employ as a practice the kind of physical and verbal abuse she endured for so long. She says, I want these places to shut down. I want them to be held accountable, and I want to be the voice for children and now adults everywhere who have had similar experiences. I want it to stop for good, and I will do whatever I can to make it happen. The hotel heiress also opens up about abuse that she faced in her personal relationships. She details how she was strangled, hit, and grabbed aggressively, and how she put up with things that no one should, and that the abuse that she experienced at Provo Canyon made her feel like this type of abuse was normal. She had relationships with these relationships, I don't want to say with all five, with all of her relationships, but 5 of her ex-boyfriends, whom she says abused her, all started the exact same way. They all seemed to be such nice guys, and then the true colors would show. They would get jealous or defensive or try to control me. And there would be some point at which they would become physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive. I didn't really understand what love or relationships were. I thought that them getting so crazy meant that they were in love with me. Looking back, I can't believe I let people treat me like that. Thankfully, in filming her documentary, Hilton found a way to release her trauma. Hilton is now dating a 39-year-old entrepreneur, Carter Room, her boyfriend of 9 months, and they are in a happy and healthy relationship. She says that she feels safe with him. Before, I didn't think I was really ready for a good relationship. I've learned so much, and I'm grateful to have found my perfect match. Again, the documentary, This is Paris, which I will absolutely be watching, airs on YouTube on September 14th. Now, Paris Hilton was the first person to be famous for being famous. This was before Kim Kardashian. Paris walked so that Kim could run. But because Paris was the first, she was then the social experiment. She was our first influencer. She is long overdue to share her life and what is real, especially now that authenticity is valued so much more than a public persona. I, for one, didn't like Paris Hilton, the character, as a teenager. I never had what she had, and I didn't have the access that she had, and I resented her for it. I hated how she just didn't understand the working class. But now, as an adult, I am eager to hear her side of the story. Even in the trailer of the documentary, you can clearly hear the 2 very different Paris Hilton voices. The woman was born into means, stereotyped, and put in boxes that didn't fit her, and she is constantly fighting for her identity. Paris, I am so excited. You're probably not listening to this, but I am so excited to hear what you have to say. I am so excited to hear your story. And I'm so excited to see who you truly are. So guys, I will be tuning in on September 14th and I will be doing a podcast recap of this documentary. I'm very anxious to see it. And if you feel like you are in an abusive relationship, please seek help. There are people out there who will help you. Do not feel ashamed. It is not normal and it is not okay. Go get help. Go to your friend. Go to a parent. Go to someone who you trust, a boss, anybody, and get help. No one will judge you. No one. So that is that on that. Guys, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I will be sharing some of my favorite things about classic Hollywood. So stay tuned.
Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to my favorite part of the podcast, my favorite things. I feel like I need to come up with some kind of clever title for this segment. My favorite things is just so bleh. I don't know. I'll figure something out. Maybe we can open it up to Instagram and we can vote about the title of this portion of the show. It definitely needs a title. I need to be able to say something at the start of it. Anyway, in honor of watching so much classic TV, such as I Love Lucy, I am going to share with you some of my favorite classics in Hollywood. So I've just broken it down. So there's only 3 this time. Usually I give you 5 things, but I've broken it down to just 3 because I would like to stretch this out in podcasts down the road because it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. So I'm going to be talking about my favorite movie, my favorite comedy, and my favorite TV series of classic Hollywood of that era. So this is not in any particular order. These are just 3 subjects that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So if you're not familiar with anything that I'm talking about, I'm not going to be overwhelming you. You can kind of go and research it yourself or watch it, and we can talk about it, down the road. Again, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I am very excited to share it with you. So let's just start with the movie segment. So this started out with an assignment from college and it ended up really, really staying with me. And that is the movie Sunset Boulevard. This is a 1950 American film noir directed and co-written by Billy Wilder and produced and co-written by Charles Brackett. It was named after the thoroughfare with the same name that runs through Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, California, Sunset Boulevard. I am sure you have all heard of the famous road. The film stars William Holden as Joe Gillis, a struggling screenwriter, and Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, a former silent film star who draws him into her demented fantasy world where she dreams of making a triumphant return to the screen. It was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and 7 Golden Globes. At its core, it is a timeless story. How the world keeps changing so quickly and we're trying to keep up, but we all keep getting older. And the older we get, we have a difficult time trying to keep up with all the changes that's happening in the world. If you haven't seen the film, I am for certain you have at some point heard its most famous and iconic line. It is, "I am ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille." I have seen this line delivered almost everywhere, from The Simpsons to the Rugrats. It is So it comes from this movie. Gloria Swanson, who gave a brilliant and haunting performance as Norma Desmond, was a star in the silent film era herself. She had to figure out how to go from the silent movies to the talkies. In 1925, Swanson joined United Artists as one of the film industry's pioneering women producers. She hired Raoul Walsh in 1927 to direct the film Sadie Thompson, where Swanson played the title character, a smoking, drinking, jazz-listening young prostitute who arrives at Pago Pago, which is American Samoa, on her way to a job with a shipping line. The film also stars Lionel Barrymore, the great uncle of actress Drew Barrymore. See, like, this is why I love old Hollywood, all these fun little connections. So her performance in Sadie Thompson gave her the nomination for Best Actress in the very first annual Academy Awards. In 1995, Sunset Boulevard was chosen by the Library of Congress for preservation as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Maybe down the road we can do a part 2 of this film. It is such a good movie. I love the style, the cinematography, the story. It is so interesting. I mean, it basically opens with a funeral for a monkey. The car, her car in this movie is incredible. The leopard print. I mean, there's a car phone in this movie. And again, it was filmed in 1949 and there is a car phone, but not in the way that you imagine it. Well, I guess you don't really imagine it now. Because we all have cell phones, but it's just so interesting to see. How she does her beauty regimen to get beautiful to be on film is incredible to watch. I mean, her home is spectacular. It is such a fun movie. So I highly, highly suggest that you go see it. Again, I watched it in a class. And as soon as the class was over, I went to the library on campus and rented the film. And I brought it back to my dorm room and I shared it with my roommate. I knew she would love it and I was correct. We still send each other gifs or GIFs of this movie to this day. We absolutely love it. It is incredible. Please, please go watch it. I will talk more about details of the film in the future. So next, I'm going to talk about classic comedy, and I'm going to be talking about Who's on First. This is a comedy sketch that is so popular that it has its own Wikipedia page. Who's on First is a comedy routine made famous by American comedy duo Abbott and Costello. The premise of this sketch is that Abbott is identifying the players on a baseball team for Costello, but their names and nicknames can be interpretive as non-responsive answers to Costello's questions. So, for example, the first baseman is named Who. Thus, utterance Who's on First is ambiguous between the question, who is the first baseman, and the answer, the name of the person on first is who. So now when I grew up, I watched a lot of Abbott and Costello. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is one of my absolute favorite Halloween movies. And this sketch, Who's on First, is the cornerstone of great comedy. Who's on First is descended from turn-of-the-century burlesque sketches that used plays on words and names. So, who on first? So in February of 1938, Abbott and Costello joined the cast of the Kate Smith Hour radio program, and the sketch was first performed for a national radio audience on March 24th of that year. By 1944, Abbott and Costello had the routine copyrighted. in 2020, this skit is still funny. I think you can hear Wilson in the background. I do apologize. So in 2020, this skit is still hysterical. I mean, it's not just the words of the sketch, but it's also the delivery. So if you want to go see it, go onto YouTube and watch Who's On First with Abbott and Costello. It is absolute genius. Please go do it. You can see so much comedy modern day comedy derives from this particular skit. And next, it is no question, but I'm going to be talking about television, and we're going to talk about what I talked about in the top of the show, and that is I Love Lucy. Now, I Love Lucy, to those who do not know, is an American television sitcom that originally aired on CBS from October 15th, 1951 to May 6th, 1957, with a total of 180 half-hour episodes spanning 6 seasons. The show starred Lucille Ball, her then real-life husband Desi Arnaz, Vivian Vance, and William Frawley. Now, I had this conversation with my husband last night that really blew my mind. The TV show, like the premiere back in October of 51, that was 69 years ago, almost 70 years. That is so crazy to me. It was that long ago that the show came out. So we have come such a long way in terms of television since I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy became the most watched show in the United States on 4 of its 6 seasons, and it was the first to end its run at the top of the Nielsen ratings. The accomplishment later matched only by The Andy Griffith Show in 1968 and Seinfeld in 1998. The show I Love Lucy was also the first scripted television program to be shot on 35mm film in front of a studio audience. It won 5 Emmy Awards and received numerous nominations and honors. It was the first show ever to feature an ensemble cast. It is often regarded as the greatest and most influential sitcom in history. And talk about a different era in television. Just before filming the show, Lucy and Desi learned that Lucy was once again pregnant after multiple miscarriages earlier in their marriage with their first child, Lucy Arnaz. They filmed the original pilot while Lucy was, quote, showing, but did not include any reference to the pregnancy in the episode. This was because CBS thought that talk of pregnancy might be in bad taste, and because an ad agency told Desi not to show a pregnant woman. Later, during the second season, Lucy was pregnant again with their second child, Desi Arnaz Jr., and this time the pregnancy was incorporated into the series storyline. CBS would not allow I Love Lucy to use the word pregnant, so expecting was used instead. In addition, sponsor Philip Morris made the request that Lucy not be seen smoking during the pregnancy episodes. So see, they had morals back then. The episode in which Lucy gives birth, called Lucy Goes to the Hospital, first aired on January 19th, 1953, which was the day before the inauguration of Dwight Eisenhower, President of the United States. To increase the publicity of this episode, the original air date was chosen to coincide with Lucille Ball's real-life delivery of Desi Jr. by cesarean section. Lucy Goes to the Hospital was watched by more people than any other television program up to that time, with 71.7% of all American television sets tuned in. That topped the 67.7 rating for the inauguration coverage of the following morning. I just think that is such a fun tidbit about the show and its cultural impact that it had on the country. I mean, that is incredible. 71% 8.7% of all televisions in America tuned in to watch Lucy give birth. Like, that's crazy. I mean, it's so difficult to scale something like that these days. You can't people don't watch television like they used to. How we consume TV is so different. I mean, like we talked about with Harry and Meghan, you know, they're with Netflix, but people are watching Netflix, they're watching Hulu, and we're not all watching shows at the same time. Like, sure, we're all watching Stranger Things, right? Like, we all watched Hamilton, but we all didn't watch it together. And that is what I think is so cool and how it kind of used to be. Like, looking back, I remember the big deal that it was to watch Who Shot Mr. Burns on The Simpsons. That was something that we all watched at the same time. And I remember listening to the radio and, you know, radio hosts giving their opinions on Who Shot Mr. Burns. Like, you don't get that anymore. You don't get that these days. So I think that's really cool that more people watch Lucy give birth than the inauguration of Dwight Eisenhower in 1953. Like, that's crazy to me. So anyway, that was just a little history lesson for you all about classic TV, comedy, and movies. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I would love to talk more about it in the future. I know as we get closer to Halloween, I'm definitely going to be talking about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. It is a great piece. If you want to watch it, if you're feeling that spooky spirit, please go watch it. It's very, very good. Very, very funny. I watched it on loop as a child, and I would wear my Nana's clothes as I watched because I like to play dress up, and I would pretend I was in that movie. So maybe I'm an old soul. Who knows? So anyway, guys, that is the episode. We talked Dancing with the Stars. We talked Harry and Meghan. We talked Paris Hilton, and we talked Hollywood classics. I mean, we covered so much ground today. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Until next time, I'm Jessica, and thank you for listening to the GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a beautiful, glowing review that really helps us out, that helps me out. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really, really appreciate it. Again, guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.